Hi everyone, welcome to the Calling Within. Today we have a lovely Leightanna in the house who is an emotional wellness coach, and we're going to talk about all things emotional wellness. So Leightanna, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm very excited for this conversation. It's going to be an important topic, emotional wellness. I feel like all of us will benefit from learning more about it and getting our emotions in check and really understanding and getting deeper in touch with them. So I suggest we start off with, what is the definition of emotional wellness?
Gosh. Okay, so I'm sure that we could all define it differently, but for me, the way that I would think of someone who is emotionally well, or the act of becoming emotionally well, is someone who has access, to all spectrums of their emotion. So having that self-connection, first of all, and being able to action that. So first, having self-connection, being able to allow that to influence how you show up and being in alignment with that. So yeah, that's my definition. Yeah.
Nice. And what do you mean being in alignment with your emotions?
Okay, so if you have a practice that allows you to tap in and you can actually connect to how you feel and your desires, truly your desires, not the egoic ones. And then, so what I spoke about earlier about having that self-connection process and then being able to act upon it. So, for example, because this is my favorite thing to do and my favorite way in, and by in, I just mean inward. If you have a meditation practice and you're able to connect to how you really feel, you can act on that. And so I think that the process of being an emotional wellness coach consists of encouraging people to do that, to go in. And once they have formed that connection, once they know what it is that they desire, they can actually act from that place, that aligned place. But you can't do that if you don't first go inward. You can't always know that you want what you want. We already know the role of the subconscious in terms of, So I just think meditation is this incredible way to find that space that is real, raw, and actually true to yourself.
Wow, you said so many amazing things in there. And I know the listeners there, well, some of them have never meditated, or they might feel a bit overwhelmed by the sheer vastness of different meditations available. If somebody has never gone inwards before, what kind of meditation do you recommend for people to try?
I think it can just be as simple as starting with breath. There are so many, and even though I've meditated for so long, I don't know that I've tried every single mode or medium. I don't know that, actually I do know that I haven't, but I don't think you need to. I think all anyone needs is to find something that works, to find a way that works. And so if they've never meditated before, I think it would be reasonable to just start with breath. So taking deep breaths in from your belly, and even if it's just 5 minutes, sitting with that and just doing a body scan from like head to toe, connecting with how you feel. Of course, you're not going to come away with vast enlightenment from that session, but you will come away with at least an understanding of what's going on inside of you. You might notice sensations or burning or tense feelings, but that's something that we don't have access to typically, because we get up and that we go, and we have no idea how we feel. And it was through going through this emotional wellness journey myself that I was like, wow, there's an entire planet, universe in here. And I don't know that I have always been, I know I haven't always been aware of that. And so just finding the time to be still, even if it's for 5 minutes, and scanning your body, figuring out what the temperament of your body is. How are you actually feeling? And then, you can go from there. So, and also meditation is not just kind of like this. You can meditate through presence too. So just that, I think, not to complicate the answer too much, I would say some simple breaths, body scan, and just sit with it. What do you notice? The fact that you're present at all, you've meditated, done. Get on with your day. And I promise you, throughout your day, you're going to find yourself being able to access that presence so much easier, and hopefully with ease as time goes on.
I love that. And I think the most important thing is to take this first step, because meditation can be so intimidating. And I'm going to actually do a podcast episode on my journey of starting meditation. And I remember the first time I did it, it was so difficult. It was so uncomfortable, but then it got so much easier.
Yeah.
So I love that. And before, you also mentioned something very interesting about egoic desires versus your true desires.
Mm-hmm.
Could you expand on what you mean by both and how do we find those actual true desires?
Sure. So I know that I feel it's best to refer to these examples when it comes to myself. So I know that I have wanted things that were perfectly fine to want, but I've wanted them from a place of wanting to prove to not necessarily myself, but actually perhaps to myself too, that to others, that I was good enough, that I was worthy of a thing. And that's okay, but that's not rooted in my true essence. So if I want something because I want to have enough resources, I want to make an abundance of money because I want to be able to increase my reach and do more in the world, and that's really at the core something that I really want to do, then that's great. But I think that's the difference. Wanting something that's reasonable to want, but not wanting it from a space of expansion or from your core, but wanting it because you think it will make you feel more, better, or less of something that you don't want to feel. I think that's coming from a place of ego, in the sense where it's stemming from this place of self-protection, not preservation, but protection, because that's what I'd say the difference is.
Nice. And I mean, we're all human beings. We go through emotional fluctuations, but how do we actually differentiate whether the emotional fluctuations that we're experiencing are normal or whether this is a cause of concern?
So the first thing that comes to mind is perhaps the duration. And also, we're all so different. We are all bio-individual people, and it isn't a one-size-fits-all, and that's part of the way I coach and practice and live. And so, on a basic level, I would say that it's completely normal to fluctuate emotionally. And I think it's so important to feel those too. And not only is it important, but it's actually your gateway. I have found the most incredible things in going into an emotion that has felt dense and just being there, just quite frankly, just allowing it to engulf me, allowing it to take over my entire body, work. And yeah, so that I feel like there are some emotional temperaments that are normal. And I'd say perhaps maybe it becomes more of a concern when you've been going through it for quite some time, perhaps the density of it. But again, I feel we all deal with those kind of things, and they last for different times and they feel different for all of us. And we also have different things that are triggering it. And so as an answer that kind of tries to include all the possibilities, I'd say perhaps the key is how long you're experiencing those emotional sort of, yeah.
So you mentioned all of us are different and we might be experiencing things for different times, but what is sort of the cutoff point that you recommend people looking out for to know that actually maybe there's something wrong here?
See, it's difficult. I don't know that I would even say that there is a cutoff point, because I have spoken and worked with people who don't go through a tumultuous time for very long, sometimes a few days, and they're good again. And from working with them, it's clear that obviously there are many things that they need to move through. And yeah, we work together to address those things. So I really wouldn't want to even say after a week you should, see, because for example, if someone is moving through grief, I mean, we already know that that's timeless. You can't put a time on when you're going to be done with that. And I think it's nice that we make so much room and space for it, but actually it might be one of the only things that we do make room for, to kind of allow to run its course. And I know personally that I have, through doing somatic work and healing work, I've had things come up that I know do not belong to today, that I know is just grief that was unprocessed. And I can't put a time on that. And I have to allow that process to unravel. I think maybe the better question wouldn't be how long they'd be moving through that emotion, but perhaps that their mental state while they're going through it. Perhaps that's the better thing to look at, because I know that when I'm moving through any sort of grief, I have this belief that this will pass, and I look for the gold and the beauty in it all, because I know that it's here to teach me. And then, so if you can apply that, I don't know if it matters how long it's around for, because yeah, either way, you're good. And so if someone is in this space of, gosh, will I get through this? I don't know if I want to be here. Then perhaps, I mean, that could happen after a day or after an hour. I think it's, perhaps most important to look at people's emotional temperament and mindset as they're moving through these feelings.
And I always think it's better to work with prevention, obviously with things like grief or natural emotions that come out of natural tragic events. But sometimes I feel our emotions, especially negative emotions, can be almost prevented from escalating to a concerning place. What are some sort of daily tips or habits that you recommend people follow to maintain emotional wellness?
Such a good question. I'm obviously going to say meditation. I just know that it's changed my life. My life looks so much different to when I first started. No doubt, I would not be a coach had I not started that journey. So I think meditation, start at your own level. If you want to just do the breaths and body scan, that's fine. If you want to go in more into the practice, then that's great too. Because some people may have already started meditating, but I think much life, there's always a new level to be unlocked. I've been meditating for quite some time now, and after every now and again, something happens that I'm, wow, like I did not realize that could happen. And so what else is there to discover? And you're always learning. So yeah, meditation. I think having a gratitude practice can be really helpful. It's definitely shifted my perception. If you just journal, then that'll be good as well. It's been for me like this book of joy, having a gratitude practice. So writing even just one thing that you're grateful for in the morning, even if it's just having water, especially in times today, that is such a privilege. Being alive, that everyone you love is okay, that you have a job, even if you hate it, it pays the bills and it might afford you some nice things. And you can work on a job, later on, but you have breath. And so, that's really shifted. So then now I wake in the morning, and after I've meditated, I do that. And if I don't get to, then I recite in my head, what am I grateful for? And it's just such a mood lifter. And we have more than we realize. And it's just this beautiful way in to just remember that we have more than we realize, and we're better off than we think. So yeah, meditation, gratitude, and I think mindset is a big piece. Really but I thought you can't develop a solid mindset if you do not first develop that way in, perhaps through meditation or anything else. Because when you have a practice that you can go to for quote unquote quiet, you can kind of nurture who it is that you are. What kind of life do you want, and what's important to you? So then when the things happen that aren't ideal, you can rest on that and be like, I this too shall pass. It's one of my favorite things to say. But what's quite nice is that I used to use that quite a lot, and that's completely okay. And it's an empowering way to see things, I think. But I feel quite fortunate to say that I don't tend to lean on it as much. When things happen that I don't love, that trigger a very high intensity emotion in me, I'm cool. There's a lesson here. Let's go. Of course, I'm not always running toward it, but the fact that I even can in the first place, I think is incredible. And if I can do it, everyone can, because that's not something that I could have done before. And it's not only not something that I could have done before, but something that I specifically ran from. That was my worst nightmare. I do not want to feel the cloudy, dark, bad stuff. And now I'm like, I know I can hold it, done it before. And I guess that's helpful. So to summarize, meditation, gratitude practice, or journaling.
There's so much power in being able to deal with this negative, dark stuff that is coming up. And especially the way how you talk about it, I'm just, wow. Well done, girl. Good for you.
Thank you.
And question, I guess, kind of, which is the opposite of the question I asked before. What are some people's habits or things that they do on the daily that actually make it worse for them? That their emotional wellness just goes down the drain and it's just, makes it a lot worse than it was before.
Social media. Not having it, I have it. It's great. It's connective, it's useful, and it's something I used to do too, checking social media first thing in the morning. Now I'm in a space where if I check Instagram or my text before 12, it's a strange day. Because by the time I've meditated and, I have these kind of, I guess, rules, but they've now become really fun and I want to do them, but I want to just stress that it is quite challenging when you first start something. So I definitely felt restrictive when I was, I can't check Instagram. That's going to be really hard. But now I will, I'll meditate, I'll journal, I will hydrate, I'll eat something nutrient dense. And by that time, I need to do something. I need to get on with my life. And so because it's not typically based on my phone, I've already sort of busied myself and I look at the time and I'm, okay, I need to go back to these texts or email or check in with people. So it's a joy to be here, but I used to wake up and straight away, it just disconnects you. And I just really value at this point in my life being able to wake up and connect to myself, go inward first and be, hey, how are you? What do you need? Before I go and serve others. And I just mean in the way of serving others can just mean walking into the coffee shop and just being that light and being like, hi, how are you? How are you today? And I can't do that if I'm depleted and have already observed 20,000 other people's lives and also then identified the ways in which my life is lacking. And then we don't do it on purpose, but it's right there. And if you aren't rooted and if you don't have the right mindset, it's very easy to kind of fall into that hole. And I think staying away from it first thing in the morning can really help you, not because you can first kind of establish yourself in your own life. Just eat first or just have something to drink. And then, if you need to, because it makes all the difference. So I say social media. And actually, I was speaking about this. I have been speaking about this quite a lot in conversations that's come up. And it's not something that I would have, I think, referred to before. But because it's been so prevalent in conversation, I would say gossiping, speaking ill or badly about other people. People don't realize. And because I was having conversations about it, I kind of reread my notes when I was training to become an integrative nutrition health coach. Such a long word. I reread my notes about it and it hit me. And so essentially, when you speak badly about people, you get a spike of cortisol, which obviously is a stress hormone that we all know. And you are essentially exposing your body to that chronically over and over again as you speak badly about this person and that person. And in essence, you're punishing yourself because the person you're speaking badly about is not there to receive it, right? And I said we're all kind of cortisol drunk at the moment, so we don't really realize it. This is another thing that meditation is great for. I feel like when I am off, immediately I feel it. I'm like, whoa. To a point where I didn't have coffee for a while. And as soon as I had my first coffee, I was, wow, I could feel it because I had previously, I felt I was just leaving myself so bare, untouched with as many vices as possible that as soon as I had it, I was, whoa, I can feel the kind of weird energy in my body, this kind of sporadic feeling when typically it was very still. So social media, gossiping, for reasons stated. What else? I say those are the two things that maybe everyone would be able to relate to having done in the past, or perhaps still do. There's no judgment, because I know that when we speak to anyone, when we're having a conversation, we're hoping to connect. And so if we are venting frustrations, then we're hoping that person knows us, and we're hoping that through joining us in that gossip, that's actually our way of getting connection. And so when you can understand that, it's easy to see it with compassion. But it's also very important to realize what it's actually doing too. I mean, who feels good after a session anyway? After putting someone down, no one's feel great.
I think some people do. People that kind of rise up by putting other people down. I guess people who are insecure, who are boosting or trying to boost their ego by comparing themselves and making themselves feel they're superior to somebody else, which obviously is all fake. It's not actually, you're not actually superior, but they think in their mind, oh yeah, look at me, I'm so good.
Yeah. It could be this kind of insidious addiction to the feeling of being emotionally charged. You know, we know that if you grew up in that sort of environment, you're seeking that out in everywhere, your work, your relationships, you know, in interactions. So that could be it. But certainly, yeah, at core essence, even if they're trying to instill this bigger sense of self, that's faulty, that's on shaky ground anyway. Mm-hmm. That can be knocked out by someone just being unkind to you. Now everything is crashing down and your sense of self is now in bits. And I say build your sense of self on something sustainable, something else. So that when things that happen, you don't crumble because you know who you are.
If somebody that you know is struggling with their emotional well-being, what can you do as a friend or as a loved one to support them?
Listen, honestly. There's so much power in just deeply listening to someone. We already know that we can't fix people, can't fix their problems for them, rather, as much as we want to, especially when they're people we love. And I know how I feel when someone has deeply listened to me. It's the best thing. I just feel so held and safe. Yeah. Listen, that's what I would say. Because I have tried every other way. And I used to be someone who wanted to change people and could objectively see that their behaviors were harmful. And so I was like, well, why don't you just do this and let me guide you? And none of it works. And I think people want to do better when they feel safe enough to. This is something that we often forget. You know, when someone behaves in a way that isn't the best, quote unquote, badly, they simply just don't feel safe enough to be vulnerable and lean into what it is they're actually feeling and then make a change from that perspective. So I feel, yeah, listening, that's all I would say, because everything else snowballs and falls into place from that space of, okay, I feel heard, feel seen, I feel loved. I feel like I could do better than this, actually, so I'm going to do better than this. Because when has a lecture ever worked? We can recall all these conversations, perhaps with parents when we were younger, all the things they said that we just never listened to. And also something else is that we can kind of give advice, but if someone's emotional temperament is here and the advice that we've given is here, they just will not receive it. We often think of things that we've heard in the past and we're like, oh, it clicks, because we have grown to meet it. And so I think the most useful thing to do is to just make someone feel listened to. Yeah.
I love that. And I feel people underestimate the power of listening. Mm-hmm. We all love talking, but we forget that actually listening to somebody can be just as powerful as giving advice.
Yes. More, if not.
And what about trauma? A lot of people have unresolved trauma. How does that impact our emotions?
How does it not? How I believe it works and how I operate is that, so the basic way to explain this is that something happens, and typically I know that we have like capital T trauma and little trauma, and trauma is trauma to an extent. Well, it's something that any event that causes you to feel real pain, or something that you come away from where you're feeling really shameful or shame. And yeah, actually research shows that you can also experience it from just watching someone experience it also. So where not in moments where you may not have been the person that was shamed, but you take away the story from that. And so your subconscious kind of hold on to those things because it's, hey, that's not safe. Let's not do that. That isn't safe. Let's not do that. And it would be annoying if all your traumas kept coming up in your conscious mind. And so it doesn't, because they're processing all this information. And so what it does is it stays rooted in your subconscious, where it makes sense, right? It's stored, safe, nestled. And then we grow up and we're like, I want this really abundant life. I want this incredible relationship and I want them to be this. And we meet a wall and we're like, why can't we have that? And so how I would explain it is, how it affects us is it blocks us and we can't see it, which is the unfortunate thing. And then we operate, things that we spoke about, such as gossiping, we operate from this space, from this block. And it takes in my opinion, subconscious work to get into that. And meditation is a way in if you are in that space. Yeah. So until we kind of go inwards, unpack our beliefs and realize how they're interconnected to us, doing the actions that do not serve us, even though they are well-meaning, until we unpack that, I think that there's a ceiling, essentially. And the really unfortunate thing is that we can't actually see it. We can't see it until we are triggered. And that's why I think it's such a gift. What else elicits such high emotional intensity? What else shakes you enough for you to be like, oh gosh, this is not working? Yeah, it's unfortunate when really, quote unquote bad things happen, but they can also serve us. They can give us so much if we are to pay attention to it and just let it.
You mentioned the word trigger. Mm-hmm. And I want to talk a little bit about that because I know all of us would have experienced triggers.
Yeah.
How do you deal with triggering situations? What is the best advice? Do you dive in? Do you avoid? What is the rationale here for your advice?
It might be more entertaining to tell you how I used to deal with triggers. And actually, for as long as I'm on earth, I'm going to be human, which means I'm going to be imperfect, which means I'm going to mess up. And I have no desire to be able to perfectly show up all the time. But currently, when I feel that intensity, and the thing is, I do believe that one of the reasons why I can even feel that, or one of the reasons why I can even connect to that, is because I meditate. And so when there's a physiological change in my body, it's instant. I'm like, oh, I can feel that burning. I'm angry. There's anger there. There's resentment there. And so when that comes up, so I go into it. And then my second best friend, journaling, comes into play, because then I can go into what that feeling's actually bringing up for me. I know it's not the human that's wronged me. I know that it's not that person is so horrible and so bad. That is not a belief that I operate from. I know that, or I believe that we're all trying our best. And even if we show up in a way that is harmful, we are trying our best with what we know. And I always say to people when they're like, but they're not trying their best, I'm like, it doesn't have to be good. It doesn't have to be good enough. Even if it's shit, it's their best. I don't know if I can swear on this. You can cut it out if you want.
It's okay.
It's their best that they can do in that moment with the understanding that they have. And so in these moments, I feel I'm able to locate that something's happening. And if I'm not in a space where I can deal with it straight away, I'll come back to it later on in the day or whenever I've got time. Yeah, you don't have to immediately deal with it. But if you just acknowledge, if you're just aware that someone has said something to you and now your belly's burning and now you feel angry, yeah, you can go into that. And so I will usually I'll breathe through it. I think there's research that says that it takes 90 seconds to feel a feeling fully, I think. And so if you just give it attention and you breathe into that space, you are, what the research says is that you're actually able to clear it or diffuse it or it go away completely. But it going away completely is not always the case, but at least diffused, and then you can come back and check. But yeah, so my simple answers are that I'll locate it, acknowledge it, and just breathe through it. And when I come back to it through journaling, I'll always find something, some gold, and it's so cool. So cool. For example, it's so cool that a colleague triggered me, or that high emotional intensity came up, because that mimicked a situation that I have moved through in the past where I didn't feel seen. And sure, it's not kind that they spoke to me in that way, but that's not the important thing here. The important thing is that I still have that. I'm still holding that. And so that shows me I'm perfect. I need to let go of that. And the more things you let go of, the freer you become. There is this lightness in your body, and you feel you're no longer victim to the world. Because I definitely know the past me, if anything happened, and it wasn't great, I'm gone. I want to have a great day, and I'm not having a great day now. That's it, day ruined. And so it's just like a much better space to exist from, to be like, I can be in control while not suppressing my emotions, while actually creating space for my emotions to be. Because you cannot evolve in that way if you are suppressing and feel, I'm fine, it's fine, it's fine. How are you to evolve? How are you to make that connection that this is connected to your past if you're not willing to feel into it and make the connection? So that's the very long answer for how I deal with things.
Wow, that is a superpower, to be non-reactive in the moment to a trigger, but yet also process the emotion that comes. I wish everybody was able to do that. I feel the world will be a much better place.
It took a while. And I've got to say, sometimes I don't do it. Sometimes the best I can do that day is that I might snap, I might be snappy, something that I don't want to be, because it doesn't align with how I want to show up in the world. So I might be snappy, and then the second after I am, and that's a win too. That's what I want people to know. When I was going through the process where I was learning this whole thing, I would get frustrated because I'm like, oh gosh, I realized an hour after what really happened, or I realized 10 minutes after what really happened, which just didn't happen. But it's like, the closer you are, I guess, to mastering it, the kind of closer to the situation, you'll realize what really happened. The fact that you even are able to recognize it at all is such a big deal and is a win. And yeah, maybe the next time you'll be able to catch yourself just before. So just wants to say, it's not easy, but it's worth it. It's worth it.
100%. And your quality of life will improve so much. Because I feel like once we have this trigger and once we get those intense emotions, you're just hurting so bad. And then it just gets worse if you don't deal with it. But people don't realize. Yeah. They just push it out, scoop it under the rug, hoping this is it, that's going to get better. But it doesn't. Yeah. It stores in your body.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Another concept I wanted to touch on is emotional intelligence. What is emotional intelligence?
Gosh, I'd say it's closely linked to the answer I gave before, where you are interconnected to how you actually feel, and you're able to voice. So first you have access to your emotions, spectrum of your feelings, and you're able to voice those. And yeah, also in a way that is in alignment, I use that word a lot, in alignment to who you want to show up as. So yeah, I guess that also comes into use when you're having challenging conversations. Getting to the point where you realize that you need to have this conversation in the first place is great. So I guess evidence of emotional intelligence, and then being able to put forward those thoughts in a cohesive way, I think is a great indicator of emotional intelligence. Yeah.
And then resilience. What is emotional resilience, and how can we all develop it?
I think resilience has perhaps a bigger connection with mindset. I really do believe, for me anyway, it's kind of, it's how you move through a thing. It's your belief systems that you are using to move through life. Gosh, this always happens to me. Why can't I do this? Or this happens for me and this isn't working right now, but I know I'll get there. Being able to emotionally get back up every single time, but also having patience for the time you're down. I sometimes feel like all of us, me included, we want to kind of get up real quick, and that is a sign of growth and success too, but sometimes you need to stay in the dark a little longer, and so I would say resilience is your ability to stay connected to the true essence, which is that you're going to be okay and you will move through this. It's belief in your ability to move through something, not necessarily to succeed, because that looks so different for everyone. But self-belief perhaps, I'd say.
And I guess the way how we strengthen this self-belief is through action. So the more we do it, the more we actually are able to move through those turmoils and emotional challenges, the more this belief will be strengthened.
Yeah, you did ask ways to strengthen it, right? So it's kind of something that you just referred to as keeping promises to yourself. And I guess little ones count too, because they might be the building ground where you first start. It's always good to start in a place that is achievable, so you're putting yourself in a great space to begin with. But I'd say that the way I built it, I just want to preface that while all of this is it's so rewarding, so liberating, it's also hard, and I guess that's why not everyone chooses it. But building it for me looked doing things that felt counterintuitive sometimes, and doing the quote unquote hard thing, just essentially sometimes too doing things that I didn't necessarily feel I wanted to, but keeping promises to yourself. And there were times where when I first started this journey, I know I can move through this, and I would affirm it, will I move through this? And so it's just having patience when you first start that journey. Those would be my points.
Another concept, boundaries. What roles do boundaries have in our emotional wellness?
Don't they have? Boundaries are so important. I love the term emotional hygiene because I'm a big fan. We know that you can't serve from an empty well, can't pour from an empty cup. And so in order to achieve that means that you need to choose only certain things. You need to be selective. And so in that way, such as, not being able to see everyone or go out all the time, it might not serve your future vision. But also just being able to speak and state what your boundaries are. And I was going to say without being afraid, but actually I don't know that the fear really ever leaves completely. I think it just gets easier to move through that fear, or it might just get easier to walk alongside that fear as you state your boundaries. The consequence of not having boundaries is resentment and anger and all these emotions that are left untended for. And so I think it's important for emotional wellness because you feel how you feel anyway. For example, you may not like something, and that remains to be the truth whether or not you state it. And I know that it can be scary to the first time be like, hi, I don't like this, I actually need this, because there's the fear that you'll lose that person, and that fear is valid, and you can. But the thing is, I guess you just have to get to the place where not stating your needs and being resentful secretly that someone isn't doing what you want them to do is no longer an option for you. It has to be more important that you state how you're feeling and instill the boundaries that will make your life a joy than it is to lose people. And I know now that if you do lose those people, then perhaps they were never really meant to be in the space that you're going to anyway. Because in those moments you're evolving. You're evolving because you're speaking up and asking for what you need. Especially as women, it's really challenging. And for me, right now, instilling boundaries, it's such an obvious thing that I do not compromise on. But I do also sometimes find it challenging as well, because I have to make sure that I'm wanting these things, again, from a whole place, not from an egoic place. Like, in this space from, don't do that, no one does that to me, or, I have to make sure that it's connected to a place that's whole. But I've just learned, I've had so many conversations that were hard. I just learned how to feel the burning in my belly as I'm afraid, feel the fear, and just do it anyway. And a really good tip, actually, I think, because some of my hardest conversations, there'd just be chemistry going on in my body, just all this anxiety. But I would just allow it. I used to be like, breathe through it, clear it, and then I can have a conversation. But sometimes it never will go. And so what I would do is I would have the conversation with these kind of scripts. So I would say, which I kind of learned from, I can't remember who, but I was listening to a podcast many years ago and they mentioned it, and I was like, great, I'll use that, especially if you're just starting out. So you can say, when you do X, I feel X. I need you to X in order, so I would use that script. And another pointer is that I slow my voice down, because in those moments I'm like, ah, and if I speak like this, then I guess in a way I'm tricking my body into thinking that it's okay and I'm safe and I'm calm and I can actually do this. And it's, I guess it comes out, I manifest that kind of calm and safe feeling, and I'm actually able to push through the conversation. So anyway, emotional wellness and boundaries, it's really important. You need great emotional hygiene. And I think because a big piece of emotional wellness is self-connection, once you are connected to yourself, once you are connected to what you want, what it takes to get your desires and what you tolerate, it's difficult to feel that someone's crossing that, and it's difficult to feel that's the opposite and still continue. You actually can't ignore it, do you? You probably could for a bit, but after a while you'd have to be like, okay, we're going to have this conversation anyway. So I think perhaps the trick then is self-connection, because then once you're there, you can't go back. Once you know, you can't unlearn, right? So yeah, I don't even know if I've answered your question.
You have.
Okay, great.
Emotional wellness, boundaries, very important.
Very important. I like this.
I'd love to talk to you about the childhood experiences and upbringing. And what is the link between the way how you were brought up and emotional wellness?
Okay, so we touched on earlier that the things that you grew up around, if you are used to being in a household where it's super fast paced, everyone's quite emotionally unregulated, unfortunately, you are going to seek out experiences that mimic that, because that's what your body and subconscious deem as safe. And safe isn't always safe, but safe is what you're used to, and safe is familiar. I forgot the question.
What is the link between childhood experiences and emotional wellness?
So you can use that first bit and then I'll continue.
Yes.
Wait, childhood experiences and
emotional wellness.
Emotional wellness. Okay. And so if that's what you're used to, as referred to earlier, you grow up wanting different experiences, it can be really difficult to kind of instill this sense of calm and an intention of peace and connectedness. And so I would say that essentially the temperaments that you grew up around when you were a child are typically the temperaments that you will have. I'm sure we've all had moments where we're like, gosh, I was just like my mum in that moment, or my dad in that moment. And our parents are incredible, of course, but they're also human. And so there'll be times when there were shortcomings, right? And where they were trying their best in that moment, but perhaps it wasn't the best. And so we essentially, we'll mimic those, and we'll become those people, even if we are actively trying to do the opposite. It's still going to be a version of, again, until you do this conscious work to look into the behaviors that you're essentially mirroring. But my answer is that it has everything to do with it. You learn everything from that. You learn how to be loved. You learn what's normal. You learn how to express yourself or how not to express yourself. Everything is learned there. And so, as incredible as our parents are, and as much as their efforts were, if those were not objectively healthy ways of being, communicating, living, loving, then that's what we're going to take on, and unfortunately how we'll live our lives until, if we're lucky, we'll be triggered, and then we'll get an opportunity to look into that and say, wow, so that was from when this had happened in childhood, and I realized that I took away shame from that, and I took away the messaging that I can't show up, I can't be seen, otherwise I won't be accepted, for example. And then, as an adult, I don't know if you can really engage in being emotionally well if you aren't able to show up and feel safe being seen. So I think essentially my answer is that you learn everything from there. Just how to be, how to show up in the world. You learn what's normal, even if it isn't in fact normal.
Any advice for parents that want to bring up kids with skills to regulate their emotions?
I love this. So, yeah, because, you know, before taking on, well, while I was training, and well, for 10 years and before starting my business, I also taught. So one thing I would do, I mean, I feel like I don't want to give advice as such, but one thing I found useful in terms of how the children react as well is mirroring, and something that we could all, do with, especially even as adults. When a child specifically is upset, I think that's when it's most useful. Like when they're screaming, you want to make eye contact and you want to say or affirm how they feel. I know you're feeling sad. I can understand that. I would be sad too if such and such and such. And so you are just allowing the space to be devastated. I know what it's like. I'm sure other parents may feel the same, but when the child is having an emotional reaction that's very inconvenient, it's just not the place, or just about to go out. But you have to honor that, and honoring that will teach them it's safe to feel. It is okay that I'm upset. And of course, if they're expressing that in like an unhealthy way, you can just affirm it's fine that you're upset. It's completely okay that you're sad. However, it's not okay to do this because you're sad. So yeah, mirroring how they feel, allowing them to feel how they feel. And of course, we can't sort of stand there crying all day. It's not practical, I know. So then sort of distracting them, then why don't we just go and do this? That'll be quite fun. Yeah, because it's important that they get to the piece where they're actually able to feel. It's funny, a lot of us actually do remember our parents saying, stop crying. What are you crying for? And then even if you don't realise, that's giving you a messaging. That's giving you messaging for whether it's safe to feel, how long it's safe to feel for. Can you cry for a bit and then after a while, is that just enough now? And of course, I said it's important to move children on, but it's also not explicitly saying enough now, stop now, it's enough. Yeah. So I think give them permission, like allow the best of your ability, because I know it can be hard. And then when you feel like you have to, just move them on to something that they might find quite fun, because children are the best example of like how to feel. They'll be screaming 1 minute and they're really joyful the next, and they're back on the floor because they feel it all to the full. They have access to the full spectrum of their emotions, and that's incredible. And I think as adults, we'll be watching a movie and we'll start crying, but like, I don't know why I'm crying. Or just, even if you're not being stimulated in that way via a movie, but through the somatic work and emotional healing, whenever I feel anything, it's valid. I don't know where it's from, but I accept it. Let's go, let's be there. Especially when you're doing emotional release work. I feel like you're essentially detaching kind of emotional cords from years past, and so something might come up for you a month after, and you just have to kind of allow that and know that is valid. Whatever it is, it's okay. So yeah, I think children are great examples, and then that's how you could encourage emotional awareness.
I love that. Leightanna, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for coming on. Where can people find you?
Thank you for having me. I really, really loved having this conversation. So on Instagram, it's Leightanna Wellness. It's just my name and then wellness. And then as a website, on my website, which is www. and then I think leightanna-wellness.com. But we can, if I have gotten that wrong, we can put it in the show notes. But yeah, thank you so much. Really, really enjoyed this.
Thank you so much. Me too.